Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another off-season episode. This time we are covering the defending reigning NBA champions. That would be, of course, the Golden State Warriors. What else to say besides, the defending champs as Dove shows off his Warriors t-shirt for the audience. But Dove, let's just get right into it. The Warriors have built this core. Obviously, Steph, Draymond, and Clay have been there since the beginning of their championship dynasty, and Wiggins joining a little bit later. But Jack, we'll start with you today. Steph Curry. All I have written down for him is come on now.
That's all you need to say. I mean, we know who he is. Unanimous MVP, finals MVP, and the best shooter in the world. And he's obviously their number one guy.
Yeah, I mean, that's all you need to know. That's all you need to know about Steph. The Warriors are a little bit of a different team because for other teams, we were talking about like what they need to do differently, what they need to do to change, like to improve to be a championship winner. The Warriors won it. So our episode is going to be a little bit different today. As always, on YouTube, if you're listening, check it out on YouTube, Hustle and Hoop, subscribe to us there. Dove, Draymond Green, I put him as the number 2, not the numbers 3. You agree with me on that, correct?
For absolutely.
This team? Yep.
Absolutely. Of course I do. Draymond Green, like you say, is the engine of the Golden State Warriors. He's the guy who's truly facilitating and running the offense, whether it be through his very obvious verbal leadership or his acute role in the short roll game with Steph Curry. It is absolutely astonishing to see a guy who came out of MSU the way he did to grow into the role like we talked about yesterday. Off pod. Draymond Green.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And Duval, honestly, you could make the argument that you could put Wiggins at 3 and Clay at 4. What did you like what you saw to Klay Thompson in the playoffs, or do you think he can return to his pre-injury form? Obviously, the fact that he was able to come back at the level he was at all was pretty impressive. But you think he's still got some left in the tank, or you think Wiggins might give him a run for his money for the number 3 option this upcoming year with the Warriors?
Wow, that was a loaded question.
I disagree.
But I want to start by saying I don't think there's an argument for Wiggins being the 3 and Clay moving to the 4 on our Star Course pieces. I wanted to say Clay could be the 2 and Draymond being the 3, but that's a different conversation. Back to the Wiggins thing, I do think Wiggins is going to get a increase in his shots and just the ability to do what he does, and Clay may take a step back. In the playoffs, he was shooting a lot, and some games he was fire. Some games he just wasn't there, and he just wasn't performing, and Steph had to take over for sure. But I think it's definitely Clay here because he has the experience, he has the chips, and we know he has more to give, and he's gonna come out with a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah,
I'll say that.
Yeah. So you think, I mean, it definitely would not be, crazy to think that Clay could return to that pre-injury form. And Wiggins, you'd have to assume he's only improving off last year. Not mentioned on these core 4. I mean, for our slideshows, we only do the core 4, but obviously Jordan Poole stepped up in the playoffs last year, starting for the injured Steph Curry. And obviously their 5th starter in Kevon Looney, who just signed a big contract extension. The Warriors have a really set core. And we'll get fully into that when we talk about our rotations a little bit later. But the Warriors had a somewhat busy draft. They got Patrick Baldwin Jr. and Ryan Rollins, both people who maybe the Warriors thought wouldn't be on their board, and could easily get inserted into a role this season if needed. But those are 2 guys the Warriors obviously like, and the Warriors have been pretty good at finding those late round gems, i.e. Draymond Green, i.e. Jordan Poole. But they have some difficulty holding on to some of those gems. And let's continue a little bit more. the Warriors lost a lot of key pieces to their championship this offseason. That would be primarily Gary Payton II. He was gigantic in their finals series against Boston. Like he shot like 60% from three for the playoffs, like was there when they needed him. They also lost Juan Toscano Anderson, or Juan Toscano, however he does it now. They also lost Nemanja Bjelica, played in the finals. Damian Lee, regular season player. Otto Porter Jr. started in the finals a little bit. And Andre Iguodala still has not re-signed anywhere. If he were to re-sign somewhere, or if he were to sign somewhere, period, it would be with the Warriors, obviously. But he was a key piece for their team. And Jack, which one of those losses is the biggest to you?
I think the easy answer is Gary Payton, just because when he played, he added so much. But I honestly think it's Otto Porter Jr. because he was really efficient and filled that role of a forward off the bench. Like now, I mean, we'll get into the lineups later, but they're a little thin at the forward position when it comes to the bench. Like obviously we got Kuminga, Moody could play the forward, and they've got these young guys, but Otto Porter was scoring efficiently, playing decent defense, and just made good plays.
Yeah.
So I think it was an underrated loss for the Warriors.
And
Strong 12-4-2 guy over there
yeah,
in Otto Porter.
let me
That's
ask
what
you
you
this
need off your
stuff.
bench.
With the
No, yeah.
he's a solid bench piece. The return, like the re-signings, acquisitions, and returns this season, we'll see the return of James Wiseman to a Golden State Warriors jersey, not a Santa Cruz Warriors jersey. And they also locked up Kevon Looney. That obviously says a lot about their confidence in Kevon Looney and their maybe not so much confidence in James Wiseman. Which one of those do you think it more is? Do you think locking up Kevon Looney is because they like what he's done so far on the court, or you think it's the lack of confidence in James Wiseman to take over that backup center role that take over that starting center role that they drafted him to be originally?
Who were you asking?
Dove.
Oh, you're asking
I
me?
thought I said
Okay.
Dove.
No, you
must
didn't
not-
say Dove,
No,
but,
I'm pretty sure I did, but I think it was.
I don't think you said a name.
You two were
but
talking over.
You didn't say Doug.
I listened to it back.
Anyways, the answer is no, it has nothing. It probably has nothing to do with James Wiseman. I hope it has nothing to do with James Wiseman. I would hope it would have to do with the fact that, like you said, he has performed so well on the court. I mean, we all know what he did in the second round.
I mean, it was
Second
just you just said a solid
Whatever,
plan.
specifically
Yeah.
that game, but like
The
I'm
whole
just
time.
the whole time in the
Yeah.
playoffs, he was that solid anchor that they've needed every single championship run, and he filled that role perfectly. So I think it's that.
At
Yeah.
the beginning of the playoffs, Kevon Looney's over under on points was like 3.5.
Yep.
And by the end of it, it was like 9.5,
6.5, 7.5,
like
8.5.
7.5. Yeah, probably more like
Yeah,
7.5.
numbers.
But it grew
don't know what
because he
those
It
mean.
like
performed.
doubled. It like doubled. Yeah.
More than doubled. Yeah,
Yeah.
doubled.
And Duville, Mac McClung is now a Warrior.
I quickly want to say, disregarding that entirely.
I know you're a Mac McClung fan.
It pains me to say this, but probably the most important name on this slide is Dante DiVincenzo.
No.
He's good. I hate to say it because fuck Villanova, but he's good and he can provide for this Warriors team, and that's why they went out and grabbed him. So I don't know. He's
I
gonna
think-
be
I think
dangerous. He could be dangerous.
I think he fits the bench mold perfectly. Someone
Yeah,
who can
exactly.
bring some slashing, some shot creation, a consistent 3-point shot from the bench. That's something that the Warriors are always looking for.
Yep.
And just going back to James Wiseman real quick, as the number 4 overall pick, or what was he? Number 2 overall pick? Sorry.
2.
Number 2 overall
Yeah.
pick. You'd expect him to be able to be the starting center for your team, at some point in his rookie contract. And Kevon Looney just outplayed him, playing just by literally playing.
Yeah.
So we're here to talk about lineups. Let's just get right into lineups. Thank you.
Show me the pictures, Doug.
Shouts out Run TMC.
Nice.
All right.
Let's see, Mole.
Duval, I'll go right back to you because you got the most unique lineup, I think, out of everyone. So why don't you break down your lineup and why you got it the way it's looking like?
All right, of course. I think the starting lineup, I think it makes sense completely. And it looks pretty uniform across the way. I think we
Yeah.
all have the same starting lineup. My bench, I have Jay Poole at the 6. I think that makes the most sense. He's done enough. In this past playoff run was definitely enough to solidify that. James Wiseman, I think he's going to be playing for sure. And then you got a DiVincenzo, Kuminga, Baldwin, Moody. I think Patrick Baldwin is definitely going to make the squad. He won't be put in Santa Cruz. He was a steal of this draft. He was supposed to go to Duke, 5-star, went to Milwaukee. We all know the story. And I don't know. I just think this bench really intrigues me because we all know how Steve Kerr is. He's going to shuffle these lineups. He does what he does. So it's going to be really interesting come the season.
Yeah. And obviously for those listening, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Wiggins, Draymond, and Kevon Looney is the starting lineup that everyone has across the board. Yeah, I think the biggest thing like to remember about Steve Kerr is that he is very comfortable expanding his bench, going to the end of his bench, running 11, 12, 13 men on any given night. But I think the biggest thing that you got is you would give your minutes to Patrick Baldwin ahead of Moses Moody. Am I correct? Just based on how they're ordered.
I mean, that's tough to say, but right now I think Patrick Baldwin has a higher ceiling than Moody.
And
So yes,
that's
answer it.
fair. And what Dove was alluding to yesterday is that off pod we were talking about some of the potential of these young guys. And so Dove, why don't you go into your lineup and expand on that fact that you would probably give an expanded role to some of these younger guys and tell the audience your thoughts on that.
So you didn't want to get into it yesterday too much, and we won't get into it too much
Yeah,
today.
be concise.
But basically what I was talking to Shub about yesterday was that I think the Warriors should intentionally take shots and time away from Klay, Steph, and Dre and give that to the likes of Poole, Moody, Kuminga, Patrick Baldwin, etc., James Wiseman, in order to develop them both for the playoffs, for when you need to have spot starter minutes, when you need to have, God forbid, knock on wood, an injury, and for the years in the future. What is the harm of just give me some of those
reducing the
Give me some of
role
those stats.
of Steph.
Just take it down,
Klay,
reducing the
Draymond,
role, but
and
not a
Wiggins.
lot. I'm just talking about a little. I'm talking about like 10, 15 shots a game total from all three of those guys given to the rest of those guys. I don't think that's too much to ask for.
What are your thoughts on that, Jack? If you do understand what he's saying.
Like, yeah, I think it's fine. But like, at least Steph he's gonna get his shots, maybe not minutes. Maybe you take some, like, anytime this team goes up by 15 in the fourth quarter, they're coming out and the young guys are just gonna close it out because they're good enough to do that. And it's not that big of a scare to take them out when they're up by 15. But like, Klay hasn't played ball in 2 years. He's not going to want to take a step back right when he's fully healthy for the first time in a long time. But like, as they age and as these young guys get better, it's going to happen. We're going to see it like start to happen very slowly this season, but not 15 shots yet, but soon.
Yeah, my whole point was they just won a championship. You don't really want to mess up something like that when you're still in your championship window. That's not to say it won't naturally happen. Like you said,
right?
When they're up at the end of a game because their stars had their minutes, had their shots, the young guys will be in to close it, and then their veterans will also just be resting naturally.
Yeah.
And last thing, with your lineup, Mindy, you do not have Dante DiVincenzo listed. Obviously, if we extended it to an 11 and 12th man, he would be there. But is
he's
there a
11.
reason you didn't put him
I mean,
over?
probably like
Jermichael
10 or 9. I
Green.
just
You're the only one who has Jermichael Green on there. Is there? you
Yeah, that
like-
was like the point I was making earlier about depth at the forward position. I mean, eventually Patrick Baldwin's going to get these minutes, but like until that happens, Michael Green's going to play, and I think in the playoffs he would definitely play, fill that Otto Porter type of role.
elites of
12
Ross.
Yeah, that type of role
Yeah.
where like Wiggins is like Draymond can play center, but Wiggins is like the only guy you're really going to play it forward besides Kuminga, like 100%. Moody could play a forward, but he's probably not gonna. So I have Jermichael Green in there for now. Like DiVincenzo's gonna play. Like, don't get me wrong, I just
yeah.
don't really like him, so I don't have him in there. But the Warriors are gonna run. Like, this is the only team where we're like, okay, let's put 6 people in off the bench. I don't know if you did that. No, you didn't do that, but we
Well,
all
yeah.
did. Where we have at least 11 people playing, and I think it's more like 12 or 13.
Yeah, it probably is.
But I have Jermichael Green in there because of the like forward depth,
lack of forward
lack
or yeah,
lack
of
thereof.
forwards. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, my bench, I just went with just the straightforward chalk of Poole, Kuminga, Moody, DiVincenzo, Wiseman. However,
Okay.
I think Wiseman's gotta prove himself quickly because, like you were
Yeah.
saying, like Draymond can play center. Like they like to go to their death lineup, and that's death lineup includes small ball. So like if Kevon Looney is starting, the backup center for the Golden State Warriors will not have a lot of chance to prove themselves. So Wiseman's really gonna have to step up, or else he won't have a role.
yeah. And
Um,
I also think, like Doug was saying, these young guys are going to start to get a lot more minutes. If they want to run a small ball lineup with Dre and Looney not in the game, I could see Steve Kerr just going crazy and putting Kuminga at the 5
I mean,
and saying like, "Fuck it,
he can run it. He can run it.
he
He
can."
can run it.
Yeah,
I mean,
we'll see, but
let's quickly do predictions for this team. I think it's kind of pointless to
Yeah.
predict the former NBA champs, but we'll do it anyway. Duville, do you think they repeat, or do you think they're the train stops here?
Healthy the entire season, repeat for sure. Not healthy, which is more likely. I see a second or third round exit.
Okay, I mean, it's possible.
Definitely top 4 though in the
Yeah.
West, I would say for sure.
yeah.
Jack, what do you think?
Floor, I mean, ceiling is the championship, not a question. Floor, fucking 5 seed. Like, I don't know, like who knows what's gonna happen.
Yeah, they
But
got a
this
tough
team's
division.
gonna make the playoffs, and they're gonna win a series unless something dramatic happens.
And Dove, floor ceiling for the Warriors.
Same thing. Ceiling championship. Floor. Let's just throw out a random number. 7.
That's not a random.
A lot of good teams in the West. A lot of good teams in the West.
You know
That's
that's
a
not a random
play-in.
number.
That's
You know
not a
it's not a
random
random number, but like
It's a
I
play-in
mean, like,
team.
yeah, I don't. I
Not
see them.
happening.
I see them repeating as champions. I think the way I talk about
Yeah,
them is pretty
Absolutely.
evident on that. I like who's touching them. The running
Yeah,
back.
Unless the
smells
Nets
just as well.
somehow, unless the Nets figure it out, like the Celtics, like we saw, they won a couple games.
so the real
like-
conversation is that no team, you guys see no team next year matching up against what this team looks like to be met, you know.
I think the
Yeah.
Bucks could beat them.
I don't think
Fully
anyone,
healthy Bucks.
the biggest
I-
thing surrounding it is I don't think any team
Clippers.
in the West
Yeah.
touches them.
Could be very
The
interesting.
Clippers. The
Clippers
Clippers
could be
I
very
mean,
interesting.
I'm not getting into
I think
the
the
Clippers
I
right
think
now,
the
but
Nuggets would be very interesting, especially
I-
given this team's lack of rim pressure and lack of ability to lack of ability to protect the rim. That'd
I mean,
be a fun
believe me,
series.
believe me.
That'd be a
I
fun,
want the
Lakers are
Nuggets.
healthy.
sweeping them.
If all healthy, that'd be a fun.
And foe.
You said Lakers. What?
LeBron and foe.
You got Stanley
LeBron.
Johnson up there crossing up.
Yeah, I take that back. LeBron, a healthy Lakers team that somehow figures it out, is the
Yes.
only team in the West that's really touching them. I think. Like you
Yes.
can say like who's stopping
I think a
Jokic,
fully healthy
but
Clippers might.
they
do that.
stopped Jokic last year. Like at the end of the day, it's like the Nuggets are Jokic.
But it's
fully
LeBron.
healthy Clippers with a-
so
I
It was
I,
always LeBron.
it's just like
Who's a random vet big man who's
The-
going to be on
The Warriors
free
have it.
agency, and you know the Clips are about to scoop him up.
Boogie Cousins.
Exactly.
All right, but that'll do it for the Warriors. We will be back very soon with another team. We're about to get right back into it. So until next time, we'll see y'all later. Remember to like and subscribe and follow us on Twitter at Hustle and Hoops. And we'll see y'all next time. Peace.